Well, shalom, shalom, everyone. This is John Craig, and welcome back to Walking in Spirit and Truth. And it's good to see everybody that's already there in the chat room. My goodness. Walking in Spirit and Truth. Yes, this is a part of one of the ministries of Life of Worship here in Amarillo, Texas. And so I just wanted to share with you real quickly, if you ever want to join us for our Torah portion on Shabbat, we gather at Shabbat at noon Central Time, and we have over at the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, in this room, right back over here to my right, maybe to your left. I don't know where you're sitting, but that's where we get together with the Torah portion. We have a midrash, and we have a number of people joining us online when we do that as well. We would love for you to join us and be part of that as well on the Life of Worship Ministry YouTube channel. Now, I've been contemplating getting some other platforms connected all together with that. But right now it's just on the Life of Worship. Oh, we're also Life of Worship Facebook. So you can go to the Life of Worship Amarillo, I think is how it is, or Life of Worship in Amarillo. That is our Facebook, but YouTube, I think, has the better connection with everybody at this point in time. That's at noon on Shabbat. And then so that goes a couple hours. There's an hour break, and then we come back with our encounter service. We have a time of praise and worship and ministry, and we would love for you to join us with that. We split that encounter service into two parts: praise, worship, ministry, and then we'll have a second part, which is the message. We do that just for the sake of. So sometimes on one of these platforms, it starts to lag after you go for a certain period of time. So we break it up, and it works good for us that way too. But share, subscribe, tell your friends, let everybody know where we are, who we are. And if you're ever in Amarillo, Texas, come join us and be part of our local services. We'd love to have you. Oh, one other thing. I do want to say this. When you go over to the lifeofworshipamarillo.org website and you think, man, you know what? I've been wanting to give a love gift, an offering, a tithe over to Life of Worship Ministries, and I haven't done it yet. And well, this is a good opportunity to do that. Go over to the website right now and click that donate button. And then if you haven't done it already, and then go in there and it'll take you to PayPal and list your donation, and you can do it electronically that way and donate. Or you can also, on our website, we'll give you a mailing address, and you can, if you prefer to mail a check or money order or cashier's check or send cash or whatever, you can go there and get our physical address and mail it to us. See what the Father would have you do. And if you didn't have an opportunity to say, hey, I meant to bring an offering for first fruits and I didn't get to do it. Well, go ahead and do that now. We would love for you to do that. Join with us, partner with us, and pray for us. And we're going to work this thing through together. Amen. Okay. All right. I'm ready to dive in. I am totally ready to dive in. Yes and no, but I'm really excited about this. Last week, I think we did a total of 3 weeks looking at the Book of the Giants. It's amazing, that little bit of fragment of the Book of the Giants, which is kind of like a subgroup of the Book of Enoch. It took us about three different Walking in Spirit of Truths to go through that. If you missed it, go to the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, and you can go and pick up the last 3. You can pick them up by date. Probably be the best way to pick them up by date, because I don't think they've been categorized under the subject of Walking in Spirit of Truth just yet. So, but you can pick up those last 3. The Book of the Giants, very fascinating. We talked about a whole bunch of different things. Kind of led us into maybe some little rabbit trails, rabbi trails, whatever you want to call them, but all relevant to the Book of Giants. Well, we're going to take even a deeper dive, and that's why it's really deeper. And you and I, we are both going to be doing this together. This is going to be an experience as we go into the Book of Enoch. I mean, since we did the Book of the Giants, we might as well go into Enoch, right? And so I kind of threw it out there last week. We had some big thumbs up, and like, yeah, we want to do it. So, all right, so we're going to do it. It takes preparation. it takes a little bit of like, what is the book of Enoch? We've all heard about the book of Enoch, right? We've like, in fact, where did we first hear about it? Because if you grew up in the denominational churches, the Christian church or wherever, we always heard about this guy called Enoch. Why? Because, well, over in Genesis, we learn about Enoch, but we also, because most, like for myself, we hung out a lot over in the Brit Hadashah in the New Testament, and we'd keep coming across this verse in the Hall of Faith, right? The Hall of Faith, and Enoch is a character that is brought up in this time. They're talking about these triumphs of faith, these men and women of Yah who just had a tremendous walk, and that we should be inspired by their walk, and we should admire this relationship that they had with Yah, and it should motivate us to really press in and to know Yah like never before. So what was that one verse that really caught me? And that was over in the book of Hebrews 11, verse 5. Verse 5, 11, verse 5. And I'm reading out of the New American Standard Version. Y'all don't throw tomatoes at me. I like this version. I know it has the flaws. I know flaws when I see the flaws, but it's okay. All right. So, but it's a good version. It's a really good version because it's a word for word version of it. I always bounce it off the King James. I bounce it off other versions. I always look at the Hebrew, but I do. I just use this one. It's the one I got marked up. All right. Here it says, Hebrews 11, verse 5, by faith, Enoch, or Enoch, was taken up so that he should not see death. But he was not found because Yah took him up, for he obtained the witness that before his being taken up, he was pleasing to Yah. Okay, there you go. This little verse stuck in all of the Brit Hadashah, talking about this one character, Enoch. And who was he? He was the great-grandfather of Noah, And in fact, there is a story about Methuselah, who comes up and says, you know what? There's this child. It's like a child prodigy. And his name is Noah, Enoch. He's your relative. He's like your great-grandson. And his name's Noah. And they're saying these really, really special things about him. And we just need to know, is this true? Is he really the one that we've been looking for this next big event that's going to happen in this world? And Enoch says, yep, he's the one. He's the guy. And so watch over him, mentor him, raise him up. He's going to be the one that's going to preserve humanity. So anyway, that's a nice little, interesting little tidbit of information. Okay, so Enoch, the book of Enoch. Let me get you a summary. I mean, I hope that we're going to be able to get started. Maybe hit some of the chapters are really short. So on some of the chapters, so we'll be able to breeze through a few of them pretty quickly this evening, as long as we have time, as long as I don't go run my mouth too much. And so Enoch is it's about it kind of gives us a picture about the origins of good and evil. And one of the interesting things that we see about Enoch is, it's almost like we saw it more in the Book of the Giants than we that it really starts out talking about. But Enoch kind of liked being away from the rest of, quote, civilization, and so when, what was his name? Was it Mawe? I think it was Mawe. He went out to find Enoch, and he had to. It says he flew. He had big hands, I guess, and he flew, and he found Enoch over on some mountain in some cave somewhere, and Enoch had to go up. Remember, we talked. Had to say, "Hey, don't fly too close to the sun. Not good." Right? That was kind of an interesting little twist in the story, but yeah. And then Maui comes in and brings this brings the dreams, and Enoch says, okay, hey, I'll be back. And he says, this is not good. This does not bode well for you. And in fact, my wife says, well, can you intercede for us that we can maybe bypass this great judgment that's coming? And Enoch says, nah, nope, God's not in. He's not in on it. Nope, he's not going to do it. So Samawe had to go back with the bad news. But Enoch, he didn't want to be around the humanity and the mixed breeds and all of the genetic hybrids and everything that was been corrupted and the perversions that were on the earth. He kind of separated himself. But in the separating of himself, in fact, one of the places I was reading is that he set himself apart. He was set apart. Well, what do we know as set apart? Well, specifically when we go into the Hebrew, it is kadosh, holy, to be set apart. And he did that. And of course, we just read over there in Hebrews, it says that, he didn't see death, and that y'all took him up, and because he was pleasing to Yah. So there was something amazing about it. Hey, preview, I don't want this to be a spoiler, but remember what we were talking about Shabbat, about the 8th day and the transformation that takes place? I think when we get to the end of Enoch, we see that transformation. We see that transformation, that this flesh covering, the skin covering that Genesis chapter 3 talks about, that was put on Adam and Mrs. Adam. And I think he got his glorified body. We're going to look into that in the book of Enoch. He's going to have us. It's going to describe this glorified body that Enoch put on and never saw death. Like, whoa. All right. So the Enoch, origins of good and evil. So this is just kind of a summary of all these different parts of Enoch. There's several different versions. There's the Aramaic version. There's the Ethiopian version. I think there's a Slovakian type of version out there. I was reading on Slavonic. That's what it is. Slavonic, old Slavonic version of it. One of the narratives that I was reading, I was like, this is so wrong. Cain had a son or a grandson and they named that child Enoch. And then they tried to claim that this son of Cain is the Enoch that is the great grandfather of Noah. I don't know where they got that. Somebody mentioned to me that could have been some of those beware of the Masonic version of Enoch. Well, maybe that's part of the twist that came out of what I was reading. I said, I'm done with that one. I'm not going there, because he's definitely not the son of Cain. All right. He comes from the lineage of Seth. So, all right. So the book of Enoch, it's been said, so this is one scholar's view, so I'm just giving you the academic kind of idea, that it was written over several centuries. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Enoch lived 365 years. He wasn't like his forefathers or the ones that came after him for a couple, 2 or 3 generations that lived several hundred years, almost like Methuselah living like the longest living person. No, he didn't live that long. He lived 365 years, but he didn't die. So we could probably say that he was on earth 365 years. And one of the ideas is, well, that's really interesting, because that's kind of close to what they call the priestly calendar, or the Enoch calendar, or whatever. So just a thought. We have in the book of Enoch, though, so it's written over several centuries. However, I think the information that we see in the book of Enoch, because there's quite a bit of information there, and a lot of different chapters, a lot of different subjects that it hits. I think one of the things that we should be considering is there was a narrative that was handed down from generation to generation and generation to generation that was preserved, and ultimately it was written down. And of the earliest versions they found in the Qumran caves. And then, of course, then we have the translation of the earliest versions, and where we got the Aramaic, and we eventually had it over there, the Ethiopian version, and that I don't even know all that history of it yet, because we're learning this. We're going through this experience. A lot of details, maybe a lot of it that we don't need to know because we'd rather get in the meat of the stuff, right? So it's broken into the Book of the Watchers. Then it has the parables, the Book of the Heavenly Luminaries, the Book of Dreams. I think that'd be pretty interesting. I mean, all of those sound really interesting to me. I hope it does to you as well. The Epistle of Enoch. Yeah, so the letter of Enoch, the Epistle of Enoch, and which goes into the blessings of the righteous and the curses of the sinners. And then it goes into Enoch's visions, where he has a vision of the flood of the earth and earth history from Adam to the final judgment. In fact, when we start out here in Enoch, you're going to think, are we reading? Are we reading at the end of Revelation? In fact, so there's like, when we start reading through this, you're going to like, I've read that before. And even though you didn't read it in Enoch, it's these, what they call the pseudo-epigraphal writings that were preserved there in the Dead Sea Scrolls, were very thematic during the Second Temple period. And that's why when we start reading into the New Testament and the first century writings, there is this thematic connection through the Second Temple period. And that Second Temple period literally connects you to the First Temple, going all the way back to the garden. And so it's like the link in the chain that was lost. And then when we look at this, I think one of the things we'll see is the prophetic perspective. So the prophecies and the prophetic words of those of the community of the Ahad, the community of the Essenes or the Qumran communities, we'll see that these people, and I was talking about this before, how prophetic they were, but the prophetic connection from generation to generation to generation, it didn't change. It's very consistent. And that's why when we get into the New Testament writings, the Brit Hadashah writings, and the writings of our early apostolic fathers, we see a very strong connection. So I think we're going to see some of these thematic expressions, and that's why, it was very important. They found several of these preserved scrolls in the Qumran caves. So, and I think they also found them over in Egypt, over in the libraries of Alexandria, because of the Essene community that left out of the land, and they went down to Egypt in order to escape the persecution, because they literally would send the Jews out of the sect of the Pharisees, what came to be known as the Pharisees, and the Sadducees. They would send out assassins, and because they didn't really like this group, because why? Because they know they usurped the power of the priesthood from this other group, this other sect of what we would call, or in our Western mindset, early sectarian Judaism. So an academic thought, but that's how people understand it and describe it now these days. So Enoch's visions, the flood of the earth history from Adam to the final judgment. And then we go into Second Enoch, and where we have the book of the secrets of Enoch, the book of the secrets of Enoch. So what are these secrets? Where Enoch ascends to heaven, Enoch descends, Enoch ascends again, and Enoch doesn't die. So those are some interesting elements. And you know what, those ones in Ethiopia, it makes me wonder, I'm sorry to jump track, I'm just wondering, did Solomon have some type of connection, handing some of the ancient writings that ended up over in Ethiopia. That would be very, very interesting to study out if there's a Solomon connection, King Solomon. All right, Enoch. Then there's three Enoch. So we have one Enoch, two Enoch, because two Enoch's the book of the secrets of Enoch. Then three Enoch is the Hebrew book of Enoch. And we have this Rabbi Ishmael in a first-person narrative. And there's this description of Enoch who becomes Metatron. Sounds like one of those Transformers. Metatron. It is Metatron. I don't even watch that show. I don't even know where I get that. All right, so Enoch becomes Metatron, and so this is where I have to say, okay, this is kind of mind-blowing. I'm going to put this on the shelf because I really need more perspective on it and understanding. But he becomes Metatron, and what is Metatron? According to some of the summaries that I was reading, and it talks about he has like this angelic transformation. So remember when I talked about this transformation from this body of flesh, and he takes on this glorified body, and he's given this name Metatron. Well, Metatron sure sounds Greek, doesn't it? So, but nevertheless, we're going to explore that. We're going to figure that out, and we're going to look at that when we get there. That's in 3 Enoch, and then it ultimately jumps over to the book of Giants, and it leads into the book of Jubilees. Now, who are these characters that we're going to come across in Enoch? Well, first off, Enoch has descriptions of Yah. Let's just put it that way. Joe says, sounds like a cyborg, Metatron. And so the gods, I won't say the gods, the God, the Elohim, Yahweh, the Almighty. So this is some of the titles that Enoch gives to the Most High. And one is the Holy Great One, the Holy Great One. Another one is Yod He Vav He, or, as the God of Israel. Also, he uses the term El and Elohim. So all of these he will use as terminology in the book of Enoch. And then there's the Prince of Presence. Prince of Presence. I like that. I like that a lot. Prince of Presence. I mean, I just think the Prince of Peace, the Prince of Presence. Yeah, and it says that he has 70 names. 70 names. And but if you think about in Scripture, how many different ways did Yahweh reveal himself to us by different names? So Prince of Presence, and who has 70 names. And then another description that Enoch uses is Lord of Spirits, and also Son of Man, and Elect One, the Elect One. So I think that's pretty cool. Linda, I think that's interesting. It does the bread of presence there in the tabernacle, bread of presence. So that's a really good way to look at it. So, and then there's their archangels. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so the archangels, man, these are serious characters. Some might call them creatures. They're created by Yahweh. And, I had mentioned this before. I think it was on Shabbat a couple weeks ago, that one version there was that angels were created on the first day, as man was created on the sixth day. And so I'm just saying that is a thought. I kind of put that on the shelf. So I'm not hanging my hat completely on that because we don't have a scriptural basis for saying that. But from the Dead Sea Scrolls, some of the information comes out of it saying that they wrote about the angels being created on the first day. Well, what is the first day, and what does that exactly mean? Well, there's a lot to that. So I put that on the shelf because the scriptures were actually kind of silent as to when the angels are created. But the archangels, we have the seraphim. Now we know about the seraphim. That's over, like we read about them in Isaiah chapter 6, and they're described as flaming. So they're like, I mean, when you see them, they're like on fire, and they have eyes, and that there's a heavenly being, this heavenly creature. And we can go into Isaiah chapter 6, and it talks about them, with the wings and all that sort of stuff. Then there's a cherubim, right? The cherubim, and it was the cherubim that was set at the entrance to the garden when Adam and Mrs. Adam were kicked out, and stood there with the flaming sword, right? And that to prevent anyone going into the garden. Why? What is that a depiction of? It's really a depiction of the tabernacle. Adam and Mrs. Adam, they defiled the tabernacle, the Garden of Eden, and they get kicked out, and because they were now not clean, they had to be removed, they had to be separated. And it just makes me think about the priesthood, and it was only the priests. You had the Levites, and they were all in the area doing all the duties and stuff around the tabernacle, and even outside the walls of the tabernacle. But it was only the priests that went in and served within the tabernacle, and it was the Levites who would guard at the gates of the tabernacle. And during appointed times, then the people would be able to go through the tabernacle as part of the procession, and bringing in their offerings. And so I think, these cherubim, they kind of give me the picture of these Levites and the temple guard, right? The tabernacle guard. These are soldiers, and with their big swords. And so the cherubim. And so we're going to see those in the book of Enoch. We're going to have another character that I have not run across in the regular scriptures, but in Enoch it talks about the Ophanim, the Ophanim, and they're described as flaming. So they're like bright, brilliant. They have eyes. They're said that these are the children of the archangels. Okay. They are most powerful angels. So children of archangels. So, but they're still under the classification of archangels because they're the children of the archangels. So interesting. I'm interested to see what these characters are all about. And then there are the Elohim. Now you think, well, Yahweh is called Elohim, but Yahweh is the El of Elohim. So Elohim's talking about their, gods. The scripture. It's not hard. It's not a hard jump for the people of the Second Temple period to call angelic figures gods, not in terms of being like taking or usurping power or anything like that from the Most High, but in regards to their supernatural characteristics and abilities that would elevate them above mankind, but not over the Most High. And think about this: the people in the land of Canaan, they had their gods that they served, correct? Well, a lot of these gods that they served are the fallen ones, not the watchers, not the ones that were thrown into prison, but the ones that were fallen angels. And they made statues, they made offerings to them. These were gods, yet little g. Yet over in, I've mentioned this before and talked about this, Job chapter 1 talks about, maybe we should go there real quick. So I don't want to lose anybody, confuse anybody with these pictures. There's also over in Psalms, another place that talks about it. But the council, where it's like, why does Yah need a council? Well, he doesn't need a council, but he has a council because he likes involving all of his creation in his business. So what's he do? He brings his council together. And this is kind of the scenario that we get over in Job chapter 1. I can get over there real quick. And And Job chapter 1, verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of Yah came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Hasatan, Satan, also came among them. This is Job 1, verse 6. Verse 7. And Yahweh said to Hasatan, from where do you come? Then Satan came, answered Yahweh and said, from roaming about on the earth and walking around on it. Then Yahweh said to Hasatan, have you considered my servant Job? So we know about that story, right? And so why is he coming before the Most High? Because he has a role and a responsibility, and there's still this relationship that he's not been cut off at this point in time from the presence of the Most High. So it's this whole idea that this council that comes around Yah and his throne, and it's almost like he's like, what about you? What have you been up to? All right, here's your next assignment. And so it seems like, well, why would Yah go and do this to Job? He seems like a pretty good guy, because he knows that Job could handle it, and he's going to bless him as he shows us that Job is a man, that he's mortal and can overcome even the most horrible circumstances. And when he comes out on the other side, then Yah rewards him. So that is, that's kind of like part of the thematic story of Job. He goes through a lot. He has those emotional expressions like you and I have. He has these friends are like, you just need to repent or a wife that says, just curse God and die. Don't we go through stuff like that? So poor Job. Anyway, the council of the Most High. So that was the Elohim. And so they're called Elohim, but remember, Yahweh is the El of the Elohim. He is the Almighty, and they're called also the Shining Ones. And then there's the Nephilim. So that Nephilim don't really fall into the category of the archangels. Along with them are the Watchers, because the Nephilim are the offspring of the Watchers, because the Watchers, they got together with the Earth Women. We went through that in the Book of Giants, and they became the giants. And so we have those characters that are showing up here in Enoch. So, all right, then there's Enoch. So this is some of the descriptions of Enoch. We have the scribes. He's called the scribe, and that's what he's called by the Watchers. So, in fact, when we read in the Book of the Giants, what did he do? He took a tablet and he engraved on the tablet the message of judgment by which he gave to Maweh to take back to the council of the giants and the monsters. So to present, saying judgment's coming, sorry, there's no way out. You're done. You've been too bad. Evil, evil, evil. It's in your character. Yah's going to wipe you off the face of this earth. All right, so he's called the scribe, and he's called that by the Watchers. Isn't it interesting that Job was left alone? What does that tell you about this walk? If we have just this walk, where does that elevate us to? That just puts this force field of the Spirit of the living God around us, that, the enemy just keeps his hands off of us. Makes me wonder. Just makes me wonder. Well, what about Job? He was a good guy. Yeah, I know. But he came out on the other side. But there was an assignment. It was for us. That assignment, Job's assignment, that assignment against Job was for us. All right, let's go on. He's also the great grandfather of Noah. And it's possible that he had 70 names. I don't know. There's another thought in there. Just kind of put that on the shelf. I have to put that one on the shelf. I may learn about it here in the Book of Enoch. We have another character in here that's mentioned, Abraham. Abraham, the father of both the Hebrews and the Muslims, the Ishmaelites. who was born in Ur in Samaria. So it's like, well, wait a minute, Enoch. What's Enoch? What's this connection? Well, we're going to look into that. Uruk. Uruk was also he was Abraham was born in Ur. Well, there's a city called Uruk, 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 and was also the throne city of Gilgamesh. Now, Gilgamesh, remember him? He was the one with the bad interpretation of the dreams and the visions, and yet he was really concerned that the angels of the Most High, he could not defeat, even though he could defeat everybody else. So anyway, the city of Gilgamesh, it's his hometown, throne city of Gilgamesh, Uruk. And let's see. So that's part. And then people Enoch met. So we'll have a picture of the Lord's face. So Enoch meets Yahweh, the Holy One, the Almighty, face to face. And there's a description of Yahweh's face, and it's like iron made to glow in fire, emitting sparks. It was ineffable, marvelous, and very awful. So full of awe. You know, we hear that term awful is like, we make that a negative term in the English language, but it was in modern English. It was awful. It was full of awe, ineffable, marvelous, glowing, emitting sparks. The face of Yah. Think about that. It's like even the flames of fire coming off of this brilliance of Yah emits flames of fire. Kind of cool. And then there's visitors, Enoch's visitors. We have the exceedingly large men. Well, who would those be? That would be the giants. And we have this faces shining like the sun, eyes like a burning light, fire coming from their lips, wings brighter than gold, hands whiter than snow. Well, so this even goes beyond, the giants that came to visit him, because I don't really see them as these shining ones. But what about the angels of the Most High? Yeah, these messengers from the throne that come and visit him. They've got wings. They're brilliant. They're burning. They represent the throne. So they look like the one they're sent from. Kind of pretty cool. Hands whiter than snow. Then, okay, as we're talking about the characters, this transformation of Enoch. And so this description, and I'm putting it on the shelf. Put it on the shelf, okay? We'll get there. Becoming the archangel Archangel Metatron. This Enoch, whose flesh was turned to flame, his veins to fire, his eyelashes to flashes of lightning, his eyeballs to flaming torches, and whom Yah placed on a throne next to the throne of glory, received after this heavenly transformation, and receives this name Metatron. I don't have a grid for that. Do you have a grid for that? I don't. I really don't. I don't have a grid for that. It's just kind of just so cool and amazing to me, and to think that there's this connection somehow. I don't quite understand all that, but it's good. It's all good. But he has this transfer. Remember what I talked about, the glorified body? And then you think, what about you and me? I want to be there on the 8th day. On the 8th, when we hit that 8,000 year mark, we've gone through and we've lived out the 7th millennium with Yeshua as king, ruling as the king of righteousness on this earth. And then there's graduation day. And we have this transformation. And we see this with Enoch, whose flesh was turned to flame, his veins to fire, his eyelashes to flashes of lightning, his eyeballs to flaming torches, and whom Y'all placed on a throne next to the throne of glory. And then he receives this new name. So he just put the name Metatron on the shelf. He received a new name even. All right. And it makes me think, okay, whoa, uh-oh. Sorry about that. My foot caught the cable and brought the camera down. So he receives this new name. And okay, guys, I know this is going to be like, and I'm not trying to touch on anybody's theology, but just go with me on this. If there's this transformation, because we say, we're going to have these two witnesses, and we think, well, one of those witnesses could be Enoch and Eliyahu. And, that's some people's versions. Why? Because they didn't see death. We don't see that as neither of them, Enoch walked with Yah and he was not. He was with Yah, right? And then we have Eliyahu, Elijah. He gets on this chariot, and Elisha, sees him go up in this chariot and disappears. So it's like, they never saw death, and we know it's appointed for man once to die. And those two characters within the scriptures, we don't see a physical death. So it would make sense that the two witnesses that are witnessing on the earth during the time of the tribulation would be, and then they're murdered on the streets of Jerusalem. And so these two characters see death. But guys, if you have this glorified body of Enoch, can he be the witness? Can he come and be transformed back into a body of flesh? I don't know. It makes me just wonder. Put that on the shelf. Could we be thinking that two witnesses may be different characters, that it's not those two? I mean, think about Eliyahu. Did he transform like Enoch? Scripture doesn't tell us that. And I don't think there's anything in the Dead Sea Scrolls or anything like that tell us about Eliyahu and what he was transformed into. But this is the things that we can ponder when we go to sleep and when we wake up. So I don't know. Okay, we're going to learn soon enough, because this life is so short that we never know when we're going to be able to transition from this life into that life. And we're going to know. We're going to learn soon enough, and we're going to think, man, all this stuff that we thought we knew, we didn't know. We were just so conjecturing. It's like we made things up to make them fit into our little paradigm. Okay, so be prepared to find that everything we thought we ever knew just is wrong, and we got blown away with it. Hopefully we got all the foundations right, but all this other stuff, be prepared. Then there's some other characters that are out there, phoenixes and these chalkidri. These are these flying elements of the sun, feet and tails of a lion. They're described as feet and tails of a lion, crocodile's head, 12, each have 12 wings, that type of thing. Well, we read about some of those characters over in 2 Esdras, remember? Those creatures, they were, all right. So very, very interesting. Okay. Joe said Moses came down figured with Yeshua and Eliyahu, right? And I know, test those things, pray and test these things out. This is the great thing about the discovery it's not like we're trying to leave the Bible, but sometimes we need to make our mind bend and be expanded, and because it gets the crustiness off, and then we can always continue to examine our faith to see if that we're really in the faith, that we're not so crusty and so hard on certain things. Certain things we should be hard on, but certain other things, we need to be flexible and teachable and realize that maybe our paradigm was wrong, but it was only within the understanding that we knew at the time. But then that understanding grows, but it never leaves the main thing, still the main thing, right? Torah is still Torah. Yeshua is still Yeshua. Yahweh is still on his throne. Okay. So those are the creatures. Okay. What about these journeys that Enoch goes on? So Enoch was visited by these huge men whose faces shine, their eyes are burning light, their hands are snow white. They woke Enoch up. So Enoch was not woke. Okay, he was awakened. They woke him up, but Enoch was not woke. Okay, that's a current event cultural thing, but so they awakened him and told him they were sent by the eternal Yah to take him to heaven. So, wow, I just think that would be just like cool. It's not like he's sleeping there, he gets a little kick on the side. Wake up, Enoch. I don't think they kicked him, but I think they just showed up in the room. It was enough to awaken any human being. And so we have this, so they wake him up and they take him to the first heaven. And then they take him to the second heaven, the third heaven, the fourth heaven, and the fifth heaven, the sixth heaven, the seventh heaven, the eighth heaven, the ninth heaven, and yes, one more, the 10th heaven. So there's all of these different descriptions and levels of heaven, and each one of these levels of heaven we're going to get to. And he had these journeys and he had these experiences, and when he went through them, he describes them and he puts them in, and he gives those, and it's all written out for us in the book of Enoch. Now, when we start reading through the book of Enoch, I'm going to be using the Sefer. So you can use it. I know, like the old King James version, like that has the Apocrypha in it. It's like that little separate section within it. Some people call it the Catholic Bible, but just remember, it was actually considered part of the Bible at one point in time. So if you got that version, you can follow along. It's in eSword. You can read along with me in eSword. It's not in the Sefer version of eSword. They did not allow that in eSword. But I'm wondering if you can buy it. You might be able to buy it and add it to eSword in the Sefer version. I need to check that out. Okay, so that's enough about that for tonight, right? Okay, all right. Those are my notes on it. And shall we hit a couple things? We got a few minutes left. You want to hit a couple things here in Enoch and just kind of get our taste about what we're ready to jump into? And I think it's kind of cool. So let's read it. We'll start on chapter 1. And it says, the word of the blessing of Enoch. So Enoch, Enoch. And how he blessed the elect and the righteous who are to exist in the time of trouble, and rejecting all the unrighteous and wicked, Enoch, a righteous man, who with Elohim answered and spoke while his eyes were open, and he saw a holy vision in the heavens. This the angels showed me. So, so we have an author who is writing this, and he's telling the story of Enoch. Interesting. Okay, and it says, now immediately it starts out telling us about how he blessed the elect and the righteous who were to exist in the time of trouble. Well, my goodness, folks, if we're looking at current events today, we feel like we may be existing in the time of trouble, that maybe this is Enoch writing this to us so that we can be blessed. Isn't that what it says about in the book of Revelation, that whoever reads and hears those words, Shema, in the book of the words there in the book of Revelation, are blessed? Well, I want to be blessed, right? You want to be blessed. And going on, it says, from them I heard all things and understood what I saw, that which will not take place in this generation, but in a generation which is to succeed in a distant period, on account of the elect. Yeah, Linda, yes, us. Okay, so upon their account I spoke and conversed with him, who will go forth from his habitation, the holy and mighty one, the Elohim of the world, who will hereafter tread upon Mount Sinai, we know where that is, appear with his hosts and be manifested in the strength of his power from heaven, all shall be afraid and the watchers be terrified. Great fear and trembling shall seize them even to the ends of the earth. The lofty mountains shall be troubled and the exalted hills depressed, melting like a honeycomb in the flame. The earth shall be emerged. The earth shall be emerged. Emerged. Now, is it talking about the flood? Could be talking about the flood, or it could be talking about an unsettling of our continents even during our time, or in the near future. So the earth shall be emerged, and all things which are in it perish, while judgment shall come upon all, even upon all the righteous. But to them talking about the righteous, shall he give peace, shalom. He shall guard the elect. Whew, it makes me feel better that he shall guard the elect, even though judgment, we're all living through the judgment. He will guard the elect and towards them exercise clemency. Yeah. Yes. Father, clemency. Absolutely. Then shall all belong to Yahweh, be happy and blessed, and the splendor of Yahweh shall illuminate them. So there you go. Your version says rent in sunder. So that's chapter 1. How much time? We still got 4 minutes. All right. That's chapter 1. So we got this connection. We're already connecting dots, right? This is stuff we already know. It's just a version that's never really ever taught from the pulpits. We have just a few people actually talking about the Book of Enoch, and here we're seeing the connections across the ages, and of course in the Second Temple period. Chapter 2. Behold, he comes with 10,000s of his Kodashim, his holy ones. He comes with 10,000s of his Kodashim. Well, doesn't Yeshua come, right, with his entourage in the book of Revelation, riding on a white horse? That's kind of interesting. What's he doing? To execute judgment, because he's coming with his sword in his hand. Well, here it says, to execute judgment upon them and destroy the wicked and reprove all the carnal for everything which the sinful and wicked have done and committed against him. Wow. Sometimes I just think, wow, it's not soon enough. Right? Okay, how much time we got? We just have 3 minutes. Okay, I can do the next chapter. It's very short. All who are in the heavens know what is transacted, that the heavenly luminaries change not their paths, that each rises and sets regularly, everyone at its proper period, without transgressing the commands. They behold the earth and understand what is there, transacted from the beginning to the end of it, that every work of Elohim is invariable in the period of its appearance. They behold summer and winter, that the whole earth is full of water, and that the clouds and the dew and the rain refresh it. So there you go. That's the first 3 chapters. So we have things that are established. When Yah establishes his word, even all creation follows his word. Now, why shouldn't we? Are we not part of his creation? Oh, okay. My appetite is wet. I mean, I'm just like, I'm ready. I'm ready for more. I hope you're ready for more. I'm excited because we're going to jump into it. We're out of time. So until next time, this is John Craig, and Shalom, Shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.